everybody. Welcome to this latest Author Roundtable discussion. My name is Matthew Turner, author of Beyond the Pale, among other books. And I'm joined today by David Sax, who's got a book coming out called The Future is Analog. He's on his fifth book. Last summer, I also published my fifth. And I wanted to have a conversation with David, not so we could promote one another's books, but so we can just talk about what it's like being a writer in 2022 and beyond. We've learned some lessons over the years. I'm excited to share some of mine, and I know David is excited to share some of his. And today's topic is this notion of preparing for a launch, both literally and more importantly, emotionally. So David, first of all, thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So before we dive in, I'm intrigued because you're right now, like, how far off are you from launching The Future is Analog from this recording?
What's today? The 21st. I think like 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Maybe 3
Yeah.
weeks.
The countdown is on, Ben.
November 15th, but the book tour starts on the 14th.
Oh, well, yeah. Like 3-4 weeks.
They're on sale. Yeah. So this is it. Like this is, it's in it. The launch window. The rocket is moving to its pad. The space is being cleaned. Not on my last meal, but like I'm definitely planning the next couple of meals.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, this is it. This is like, I'm like, people are asking me to do other things, and I'm like, until this is done and I'm out of the other side of this, second week of December, and then really into January because of the holidays, like, this is life.
It is. It really does become the all-encompassing everything, especially, I mean, in many ways, I feel like you start planning for launch at least 6 months. In more recent books for me, it's like the cycle started 12 months out, but it always feels only half real until you get like 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden it's bang. It's real. It's on it. It's there.
Which is an interesting thing. Like I was having this conversation. I flew to New York last week because I wanted to, do some stuff around it. So we could talk about that because I think that's an interesting part of it. It's like there is that sort of time thing as it leads up to it. And also certain activities that start making it real. When you're like, these are ideas that I have, and whatever, we can do things this way and whatever, but it's like, these are the things that are confirmed. Now I actually have to write these essays for op-eds. I'm actually starting to do interviews about the book, like this, some type of interview, this, right? And podcasts every day, pretty much. The book tour is coming together, and there's like venues and dates, and I'm inviting friends, and like we're booking the hotels, and my flights are booked or half booked for part of it. It's like, oh yeah, this is real. Like this idea that I would go on a book tour is no longer a theoretical thing. Like, here are the dates, here are the flights, these are the hotels I'm staying at. Better start organizing like when I'm going to have dinner with friends in these different cities. All of it is actually becoming this real thing. And I think for an author, it's very exciting because so much of everything leading up to this point is just like in your head or a Word document, right? Or some pages.
Yeah.
Right on. Like it's all very theoretical. It's just ideas. There's a contract, publisher, and there's a relationship, and maybe a meeting or so, but like it's all this thing about an idea, whether it's a fictional book or not a book. And then eventually you get like a thing, an actual book that they send you.
There we go.
Right? And you're like, oh, this is the first time you hold it. And you're like, oh, this is actually happening. This is real. This is the galley copy. This is the advanced copy they send you. And that's what they send out to press and media and whatever. And then a few weeks out, you get like this. The real book, the actual one that's going to go on sale to the general public. Nice cover and its feel, and it's all, the blurbs on the back and your photo. Like, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this is, this thing, this idea that I have has now become a physical product and an object. And the launch is like this is an actual thing I'm launching out there, not the idea, the actual physical object. Like, I am taking this and I am launching it into the world, and whatever that means. And the funny thing is, like, I was talking to another writer about it, it's like, it's a meaningless kind of idea, right? You're like,
Yeah.
this is the day that this retail product goes on sale. It's not like Uniqlo is like, and this is the launch of our pants. I guess they do, right? But like, the pants are still going to be there, this is the launch of the USB cable. Like, it happens, but it still exists. Like, the book is still there. People still buy and read a book. My first book, which I wrote and launched in 2009. And so it's this kind of, it's like this interesting thing. It's like the birth of this idea packaged in paper. It's really the birth of retail product based around the like schedule of when, the stores need to put it on sale in order to fit in the seasonal catalog.
Yeah, it's like on the one hand a really important day, but then on the other hand, it's just every other day. Like it's this first day, it's a start, and it's a big deal because whenever you launch anything into the world, like, it should be celebrated. But then it's gonna be there tomorrow. It's gonna be available in a week, a month, a year from now. And as you say, like, books you hope are gonna be read, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So it's like a huge moment, and we drive ourselves insane leading up to it, trying to make sure it's all perfect. But then at the same time, it's important to remember, like, it's just a day. It's like the beginning. It's like the closure of one chapter within your book and then the start of another, because the promotion doesn't stop once you've done that initial book tour and those initial lists of podcasts. Like, it's just, it becomes part of the system. It becomes part of the process.
Yeah, and it's also not like, this is something I found, and maybe you found this too. I think it's compared in many ways, or framed in many ways, like a movie's opening weekend. Top Gun 2.
Yeah.
June 1st, summer blockbuster. And like, if it doesn't make this much money in the first weekend, it's dead, right? And books are not like that. So I think initially you have this idea and you're like, my book launched and it's been out for a week and it didn't make the number one, top of the New York Times bestseller list. And then, you go through these sort of waves of stuff and then really realize, like, books have their own life, they have their own timeline, and the launch is just the beginning of that, the life of that book in the eyes of the public, right? It's been in your mind and with your editor and with your agent and with whoever else and the publisher and sales and marketing, to like, that date, November 15th for this book, whatever your book last year, that date is just like a sell date, on sale.
That's all it is. Yeah.
Everything that happens after that is, beyond it.
It's so interesting you say that about the movie thing, though, because like, a movie's launch weekend is a big deal because it tends to only be at the cinema for a few weeks. And I guess when I look back on my first couple of books in particular, I would equate my book's launch to that. Be stressing out, assuming like it's got to be big, it's got to be amazing. If it doesn't hit a certain goal after like the first weekend or the first week, I've put so much pressure on that period.
Refresh. Like, it's gonna spike one day.
Yeah. I've had a big tipping point for me was reading The Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. And in it, I don't know if you've read it yourself, but I love Ryan Holiday. I'm a fan of his writing, and this was a very different book to his others. But it's this notion of creating something, whether it's a record, whether it's a book, whatever it may be, with the idea that it'll sell more and more as time goes on. So launch day, launch week, launch year, whatever's a big deal, and you want to hit certain goals. But the real purpose is that you want that book to be bought a year from now. And ideally, you want more and more people to be buying it from 10 years from now. And it changed my entire outlook on writing as a whole, because I just took the pressure off my shoulders. I was like, the big launch is a big day. It needs to be celebrated like any other kind of milestone moment along the journey. But the real motivation for me as a writer is I like the idea of people reading books years after I'm dead. Like, I want to be writing my best words now. I want to keep committing to that process for weeks, for months, for years, in the hope that I will get better, in the hope that if I keep committing to a book, that it will be read in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And if all you do is focus all your attention on launch, and then let's say it doesn't quite live up to expectations, which let's face it, it never does, because our expectations are always too grand.
No, and 20,
Then it just
only 20% of books earn their advance. And that's,
exactly.
I'm not even talking about the world of self-publishing where it's like, God knows how much money I'm investing in it, but like in the traditional world of publishing, my agent told me this the other day, it's like, look, only 20% of books earn their advance.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's you've got to keep committing to it. Like if you want to be one of the success stories, unless you're one of a lucky few that just blow up for no reason whatsoever, you've got to stay committed. And if you place so much focus on launch day, week, whatever, and then you get disheartened, this is what I would do in the past. I would straight away be moving on to the next book, going, well, I've learned some lessons from that launch. So if I start working on the next book and put all my focus into that, then I can move on. And I look back now and go, that was just such a silly thing to do. I could have been spending so much more time committing to the books in front of me that I had written, allowing those ideas to marinate a little bit longer, and just feeling a lot less anxious and stressed the entire time.
I mean, I feel like over the life of a writer, it takes a life to figure out how to deal with this stuff, right? And it's and it should. Like it's because it's the type of learning experience that you only really get the chance to do every few years. And it's lasts for a brief period of time, and so much of it's out of your control. I mean, I've had, my previous book came out in April of 2020. So the launch was right into the beginning.
Wow. Perfect timing, right?
Yeah. Everything was canceled. Everything was moved online. Had to figure out how to do that. Every op-ed and everything I wrote had to be rechanged,
Yeah.
The other one, the one before that, came out in the day of Trump's election. So like right away, like everybody in America was, at least where I was going, I wasn't speaking in Alabama, they were despondent. And it was just like, and there was issues with the printing and some mess ups and things and whatever, like, it's each one has been different. So there's also only like so many applicable lessons you can take from each. And I think part of that, the psychological thing you're talking about, is just, how do you wrap your head and your ego around it and like learn to ride those waves of the parts that you can control, because that's a lot of it. And I think it does. It takes a life to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I constantly remind myself of that
this time's going to be different.
And that's it. That's how it always was. And I consciously am like going, don't be that person anymore. Like, be chill, just let go. Like, you got to take this seriously. You got to go through the processes. Like, it's important to you. You can't just be, it's unimportant, I ain't going to do it. No, you got to take it seriously. But appreciate that what you know right now is what you know right now. You've learned from past launches, and you can take those lessons into the next. But you're also going to learn lessons from this launch, and you'll take them into future ones. And it's okay. You don't need to have all the answers right now, because thankfully we are one of the lucky industries when it comes to art where having an amazing opening weekend isn't the be all and end all, because like you say, with movies, at least certain movies, if they have a bad first weekend, that's it. I mean, how often do we see like movie plans? They plan for like a trilogy, they plan for an entire universe. The first film, cans. Bad first weekend, bad first week. And it just alters all those other 5, 6, 7, 8 films that they had planned for the next few years. They're just like, well, we're not going to do it because it's didn't hit the goal. It's out of it. It's not like that with books.
No, it's an amazing, and also like as an author, like it's not held to you, right? It's not like, well, that book didn't perform what we hoped, so you're done. You never write.
Right.
So, they're like, well, that one didn't work, but most of them don't. So, but we like the idea, and so go forth. And yeah, what else you got? But yeah, it's definitely like a shift of expectations.
So I'm interested to know, like, how are you feeling right now? You've obviously, this is your 5th launch.
Yeah.
You've learned a great deal from the past. You seem like, I imagine it's a very overwhelming period.
Like, I'd love to know, Matt, what you've learned.
What have I learned? I've
learned a few things, but I don't know.
I think one of the big things for me was the psychological things were the biggest ones. The mindset stuff was relaxing. They were the biggest ones, because I would just be a ball of anxiety, a ball of crazy, just trying to like connect every single dot and looking at every kind of book marketing tactic there was and going, oh, I need to do that and I need to do that. So I'm a lot more relaxed about it. But the biggest lesson I've learned beyond the psychological side of things is to just give myself time. So I'm starting the process like a year before launch, but I'm not doing like the launch type stuff, but I'm doing the stuff that seeds all the launch type stuff. Yeah. So I'm creating my list of who do I want to read my book a month before the book is out, 2 months before, whatever. And I need to be nurturing that relationship now.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm not going to be asking them to read a book for another 8-9 months.
Yeah.
I wasn't that guy in the first few books. I was leaving it too late, thinking I could do it all in like the final 4 months, and then just asking and just throwing a whole lot of stuff at far too many people and just getting not a great deal of help because I was that guy who's been silent for so long. And then all of a sudden, will you help me? So that's probably been the biggest thing, making sure that, okay, I don't quite know necessarily where the book launch is yet, but it's probably going to be 11, 12, 14 months from now. So let's come up with the launch plan. It's going to change. I don't need all the answers right now, but what are the aspects that I can control? Relationships are usually one of them, and connections. Making sure that I get some like early pages up and some resources so I can start, when I have conversations, okay, where can I point them to? Podcasts and any kind of publications like now, because again, I didn't learn this until like book 2 or 3. I don't know why it took me so long to realize, but people will say, yeah, I love you on my show, but I'm booked out for 3 months and then it probably won't go live for another 3 months. So you think it's like 12 months. It's like, wow, that's a long time to start all this. But if anything, it's not nearly long enough. So that's been the biggest learning curve for me. Other than the psychological mindset shifts, it's been very much give myself time, come up with a streamlined, simple plan that isn't going to overwhelm me, and just commit to it. You like day in, day out, week in, week out, and just follow the process. And soon enough, the book will launch. And if you do all that early enough, it makes it a lot easier to just be like, it's fine. It's fine.
That's good advice. And yeah, that's something I think most people will learn for some reason, because I think a lot of the problem is like, I did it. And I think the biggest problem for first-time authors is like the book will just get out there on its own and people find it and it'll sell if it's good. And you have to actually do that. You have to lay the groundwork. You have to figure out how people know about it in longer advance. Certain things longer than others, right? Some things require a lot more notice, some things don't. And then the other thing is, I go through the route of a publisher, so not self-published. And it's like a lot of people are like, well, I have a publicist, and it's up to them to do the stuff. It's like, no, it's up to them to help you do the stuff, or do what they can. But like, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach generally in life, isn't it? And again, it's people just assume that, if I hire a publicist or if I have a publisher or if I do it this way, then, all my problems are going to be solved. But no, I mean, maybe it used to be the case a long time ago, but these days as an author, yeah, you're only going to get as much out as you put in. And that's kind of like been my shift of perspective going, yeah, I want a good first week, a good first month, a good first year, but I'm going to continue to commit to this book for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years. And if I'm not willing to do that, then I shouldn't write it. So that's kind of my new perspective on things. It's like, and if you don't feel ready to write the book right now, then don't write it right now, leave it a little bit, because it takes a commitment. It's a lot of work. At least if you want the book to become its own thing. Now, I'm interested to hear like what you're feeling right now and comparing it to maybe a few other books. It sounds like you've gone through a lot on the last few launches, landing not the most ideal times. So you're a few weeks out. How are you feeling? Like, what's going on in your mind right now?
I think good. I think pretty calm. Like maybe I'm jaded, and maybe that jadedness is tempering my expectations. So I'm like, I'm going to do this, and it goes out there, and like, I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to have fun. I got to go on a tour, which I didn't get to do last time. So like, I'm going to get out there, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to see people, I'm going to meet people, I'm going to see friends, I'm going to get on, do conversations on podcasts or radio shows and get to write some things, and like I'm gonna have a good time. And I did my best. I've written a good book that when I, what the book I wanted to write. I wrote the book I wanted to write. I'm gonna do my best with this thing, and like that's it. The rest of it's beyond my control. And I think the difference of that versus, let's say, my first book was like, this book is coming out. I'm going to make it the biggest launch ever. And then, within a week, it'll be a #1 New York Times bestseller. And then I'm set for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm joking about it. Still describe it.
Didn't even happen for her. Yeah, like the biggest authors in the world. It's you peel away a few layers and you
now,
realize that wasn't.
But even then, she like launched her like murder mystery book or adult book a couple of years ago, and I'm sure Joan tweeting her castle or whatever the hell she is. So yeah, I feel good. I think a big thing that helped, and I alluded to this in the beginning, was like, for me, and part of this thing it real is, one thing I would always do is, when my first book came out, I was living in New York. I actually moved to New York a year before in anticipation of that book coming out, so I could build the relationships with the publications and write for them, so that when the book came out, I would know people in New York media, and that was what mattered to me, right?
Sure.
And it worked. It was great. I got amazing press. Didn't make a bestseller, but whatever. Right? It did its thing. And then I moved back to Toronto. But for every book that I've done, like always a couple months out or a month out or whatever, I would fly down to New York and for a couple of days, like press the flesh, work the city, like talk to the editors I knew, work with my publicist, go meet at the publisher, like talk, see what we can do, talk about events, figure things out. And I did that last week for a couple days, and it was great. Like, will any of that stuff make or break the book? I doubt it, but it felt good. It was so wonderful to like be in front of people's faces, talking about the book, pitching ideas, working around things, feeling creative in a way that's very different from like sending people emails. Which is what a lot of it is. Hey, I got a book. Hey, come out. Come see me, come do the thing. What do you think? This is like sitting down with people, having coffee, having lunch, shooting the shit, and then getting to talk about the book a little bit. And like, what do you think? Like, is there, like that just felt really good. And I think that really is like reflected in how I'm feeling, which maybe the week before was like, oh, I don't know, something's got to give.
Yeah. I love that. I love how you're making the experience fun. Because it so easily becomes not fun.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know about your approach to this and going, like I'm going to do certain things. I'm excited about it. I'm nervous about it, but I want to have fun with it. I want to go out there and meet some people and have fun.
Yeah. And that was it. Like I'm planning the book launch here in Toronto, one in New York, right? And I'm like, okay, like let's go for like drinks after. Where should we go? And let's find a bar. And like, how much can I pay for this? Like, I gotta pay. Like the publisher's not like, oh, throw your book party. Like, no, those days are done. Like, we've done this shit before. You're good. We're sending you a book. We're not paying for your drinks. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? Like, how much do I really want to spend? And like, feeding all my friends and family drinks. Like, it's like my wife's like, well, why do you need to do it? And I'm like, because it's fun. It's like an excuse for a party, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to change how the book sells. It's not going to make a single iota of difference in the life of the book. It's like entirely for my ego and purposes. But
well, it's a milestone moment. And it's important to enjoy it. It's important to celebrate it. And I think that's like the big lesson when it comes to launches. Yes, you want to hit certain goals and milestones, but above all, it's just appreciating and celebrating the fact that you one day woke up and decided you were going to write a book, and then you were ridiculous enough to follow through with that idea and write the book. And you turned up day in, day out, writing, and then editing and rewriting over and over and over. And all those many months, sometimes years later, like you were earlier, you get to hold it in your hands now, and you get to see it in the bookstores. Like that's worth celebrating. Absolutely. Like it's an amazing moment when that happens. So it's refreshing to hear that you are not only seeming pretty chill about it all, but making the experience fun, because it should be fun. but too often it's not fun. And I guess that's a choice. That's within our control, right?
Yeah, I mean, you do your best. The smart advice is the one you gave. Just like you do what you can as much as you can ahead of time in order to like make that launch have the biggest impact it potentially can. And then it's just out of your hands.
Sure is.
Right? Like that book's gonna get in the bookstores or wherever you sell your books online. Like someone's gonna buy it or not. And people will read it and hopefully they'll spread the word. It's going to find its audience or it won't, or its audience. You may not even know who your audience is. My not last book, but the previous book, the Revenge of Analog, which came out in 2016. That book didn't have the best launch in the United States because it was right when the election happened and there was like issues around printing or whatever, but it kept selling slowly. Its life was continued, but then it somehow took off in South Korea in translation and was massive there. I didn't even know it until I went to Korea to go talk at a conference. I'm like, why am I here? And they're like, your book was a #1 national bestseller. Like, huh? Like, I didn't do anything. It was a launch. I wasn't involved in it at all. Someone translated it to Korean and put it out in the market. It spoke to people there in a way that, it's like, so out of your hands. So that's where I'm at now. I'm like, enjoy the ride. There's so little that you can. It's a good mantra for life.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, it is. It's amazing. I love those stories where you hear about. I've heard it with like musicians too, randomly getting big in countries, and they're like, "How did it happen? No idea. Someone somewhere must have like shared the song or shared the book or shared the movie, and it just rolls. I have no idea, and you never know when something like that's going to happen. So yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day. I was like, well, what about this book talk thing? He's like, what book talk is? Some random like person somewhere with 2 million followers goes like this.
Yeah.
And it sells 1 million copies. It's like you can't just like, there's no thing you can do to make that happen. It's just like random chance. So just do your best with what you know how to do.
Absolutely. So before we start to bring this conversation home, I'd love to know one of the.
As I looked at the clock, I'm like, I have to take my children to swim class.
We definitely need to bring it home then. Can't miss that. So I'd love to hear like your favorite part. I feel like I already know what the favorite part of the book launch is based on what you've just said, but favorite part and then like the thing that you just like hate doing, but you feel like you have to do, or it works, but you just don't get a lot of value out of it. Like what do you love? What do you hate?
I love, when you do have a launch and the people in your life and love, some of whom you expect to be there, your parents, your wife, your best friends, or whatever. And other like people where you're like, I haven't seen you in 20 years. Like, I heard about this thing and, I heard you were coming to LA and like, here I am. And it's just so wonderful to see these people and so unexpected. Like, I met a wonderful couple on a plane once, and then they like heard about my book and came to an event in Houston, and it was just nice. We've stayed in touch over the years. Like, or like, I read your first book and I loved it. I heard you were coming, and like, even though this is a totally different topic, like, that's great. Like there's just nothing better than that because it actually like you build a relationship. It's a human thing. And this book is all about the value of analog face-to-face human interactions. In a world where we're told in the future is everything is going to happen digitally. So that's the best. Nothing replaces that. It's wonderful. And there's nothing to how the book sells. So that's like the ultimate reward. And the flip side of that is like social media. You got to do more social media. That's when like the publishers don't really say that crap anymore. But when I first did my first book in 2009, it's like social media. Yes.
Tweet it every day.
Social media, you got to get big on social media. And I was with my friend in New York last week, and he's in real estate now. He used to be in photography and filmmaking. He's like, it seems like there's 2 avenues to marketing and anything in business in the world. If you're selling houses, selling books, it's like get out there, build relationships, meet people, do a good job, let the word follow, or like somehow build a massive social media presence. Requires all your time and effort and the sacrifice of your soul to, say stuff that's just so degrading in order to like get clicks. So I know where I stand.
Yeah,
but
I feel like we're like
I have a a timer that I put on social media. I have like a browser plugin called, don't distract. What's it called? Do not disturb or something like that. And it's like, I on these websites, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I am limited to 15 minutes a day. And in a 24-hour period, once I hit that, it locks me out. I can't get on for 24 hours. Another day, because I had to promote the book tour, and like post things and reply when people are like, wait, what about this thing? Oh my God, I want to see, where can I buy the book? Link, 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 link. I had to up my time to 30 minutes, and then I had to up it to 45 minutes.
Yeah, it creeps up.
But, I look forward to the day when I get to dial it back down.
Yeah, just that window. Yeah, I'm totally in agreement there. The relationship side of things, it definitely became, I found the whole process became a lot more enjoyable when I just took a genuine interest in, let's have fun with this. Let's be a decent human being and actually learn about what's going on in other people's worlds. And like, if they want to read it, they'll read it. And if they don't, that's fine. But let's send out those emails. Let's grab those coffees. Let's have those phone calls. Let's put some time into actually nurturing that connection that you made all those years ago. And yeah, for me, that's always the most enjoyable part of.
Amen. So where are you based, Matt?
I am based in the north of England, in a town called Halifax. Yeah.
Is that near Kendal?
That's not too far from Kendal.
I feel like I've been.
You've been to Kendal.
I stayed with my friend Jamie Lawson, lived in Kendal. We were ski instructors together.
I think you are the first person from across the pond I've ever met who actually has been to Yorkshire. Like everyone who ever comes in said, the fact that you've been to Kendal. Yeah.
Hopefully I'll have a UK book tour one day. I've never had it happen in my life. And I can get to, Leeds. Do
it. Leeds is the good one, or Manchester. Hell yeah.
Manchester, yeah, I'd love that. All of them.
I'll be there.
Tour the British Isles.
Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for giving us an insight into what life is like right now in the lead up to launch. So good to hear. Like, where can we get the book? Like, come on, plug it a little bit. I know this is a real plugging kind of situation, but we need to do it.
The book is called The Future is Analog: How to Create a More Human World. It's published by Public Affairs, which is the division of Hachette. It is available quite literally wherever finer books are sold. Obviously, I would prefer you buy it at your local independent bookstore.
Yes.
From whoever sells books online. It is certainly going to be available in the UK, North America, the English-speaking world for now, definitely Korea. I think in China, but they're going to cut some passages out where I make fun of Xi Jinping. And who else knows what's going to end up in translation. So, yes.
Amazing.
And it's, you're listening to this and I'm in your town on book tour in the United States in the next month. Come say hi.
Yeah, go check out. It's saxdavid.com, right? Is that your website? saxdavid.com. So go check it out. I'm excited to get the book. It seems like it's one that I would very much love to read because, it's all about relationships, all about that. So I'm really excited to get a copy. And this has been amazing, man. Thank you very much. And go get those kids to swim class. Cheers.